Well, the list of West Point grads is long and distinguished. Men such as Eisenhower, Grant, Sherman, and Patton have all left their mark on American history. And as Pat Williams explains, a big reason why these names are famous is because of the virtues they were taught.
President of the NBA's Orlando Magic and one of America's top motivational speakers believes that leaders with good character are made, not born. While speaking at West Point, he came across 12 benches, each highlighting a core virtue. In his book, Character Carved in Stone, Pat Williams shows us how these virtues can lead to success, not only on the battlefield, but in any area of life.
Well, our friend Pat Williams is here with us now, and we welcome you back to the program. It's always great to have you
Terry,
here.
I'm always thrilled to be here. I'm so glad to see you.
Thank you. You too. See you healthy and back with us. Your color looks good. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you.
Talk a little bit about those 12 core values that you saw inscribed on the benches at West Point.
Well, Terry, first of all, they gave me a nice tour of the West Point campus when I was up there, and that's a fascinating experience.
I haven't been there, but I hear it's beautiful.
You know, and we ended up in a little park called Trophy Point that looks out over the historic Hudson River. And I noticed these benches, 12 of them, which seemed unusual. But then when I examined them closer, there was a word carved into the end of the bench, into the stone. And the backstory was it was a class gift from the class of 1934, and these 12 words, they wanted to inspire cadets and future military leaders to live by those words and to lead by those words, because everything at West Point is built around leadership and teamwork. I mean, when you go to the campus, you are just imbued with those two words. And so I thought, boy, this could be a great book. Build a book around those 12 words, and then find a West Point graduate who best modeled those particular words.
Several of them throughout the book.
We did.
I want to say, imagine this. This is his 110th book. Unbelievable. Well, you begin the book with Ulysses S. Grant, and I think one of the things unusual about him is because, you know, not only was he a great general, but you say he was a man of compassion. You don't normally think of someone who's been through a really bloody war as somebody who would necessarily embrace a compassionate spirit.
And Terry, and many called him Butcher Grant.
Yeah.
Because in leading the Union to victory, you know, he had a lot of men that were killed. Nevertheless, when you study Grant closely, he was a very tender-hearted man. He cared deeply about those soldiers. He had a unique marriage. I mean, he had a lovely marriage filled with compassion. And he had great compassion for horses. Just like Pat Robertson does. But Grant was a horseman. At West Point, he was a terrific horseman, cared about those animals. And there was one experience during the war when he saw one of his soldiers on the side of the road just whipping and beating unmercifully his horse. And Grant stopped. He exploded with anger, which was unusual for him. And he just told that soldier if he ever saw him doing that again to that animal, there was going to be a steep price that was going to be paid. Grant had a real heart for people and a terrific heart for those horses. He loved them.
Well, let's jump forward to someone more contemporary that everybody's hearing about these days, Coach K.
Yes.
I mean, he almost didn't go to West Point.
That's true. He grew up on the south side of Chicago, but Bobby Knight, who was then coaching at West Point, came and recruited him and convinced his parents that West Point would be the best spot for him. Well, Coach K, who is now 72 years old, would tell you that his years at West Point were absolutely the key to his whole life. Yeah. He learned, and this is where we tie Coach K in, to the word responsibility. Yeah. As a young cadet there, he learned about responsibility, and that has carried forward all the way through his coaching career. And another little footnote, Terry, we asked Coach K, we asked Mike to write the foreword, which he immediately agreed to do. We were so thrilled by that. He's a West Point guy, I mean, through and through.
Well, you talk a little bit, if you will, about the fact that these are not, you're talking about the virtues of compassion and responsibility and commitment and all of that, but these are not innate. West Point seemed to really just burn these into the hearts of the people who attended there. But how does one acquire these character traits? It seems in our culture today, Pat, like so many of these are not valued anymore or maybe even thought about very much.
Terry, I don't think we come into the world with character just gushing through our bloodstream. I think it has to be, first of all, taught at home, parents, grandparents, and then coaches and teachers and youth workers, pastors. We need to be constantly teaching the importance of honesty and integrity and responsibility and a humble spirit and a work ethic and perseverance. That all has to be taught. It also is caught. In other words, if youngsters see this being modeled at home, they're going to grow up knowing that this is what life is about and this is how we're to live our life. So to say, I'm in this world now and my character is set. And one other note, Terry, we never have a character mastered. I don't care how old you are.
That's the truth. It's a lifelong endeavor, isn't it?
Every day.
Yeah.
And you can have a slip up, you know, late in life, and it ruins everything you did up to then. So we've got to be very, very careful and alert to these character issues because they're not burned in there forever. I think it's a daily walk.
Talk a little bit about the story of the 15-year-old that you closed the book with. Never attended West Point, and Wang was the name. What's the value of what he learned?
Well, he was a young man at Marjorie Stoneham School, and he had a lifelong dream that he wanted to go to West Point. But at age 15, he lost his life in that dreadful shooting in South Florida, and he never was able to go to West Point. However, the Academy awarded him a West Point admittance, a spot. Yes. And that's how we close the book. And Terry, I guarantee, or I make a promise, that as you read that last little epilogue, if you don't, you get some chill bumps.
Yeah.
Or feel a little teary. You know, you're going to, because that is how we end the book. That young man didn't get to go to West Point, but in the final analysis, he did go to West Point. And it's a sad story, but also a moving story.
Well, in the final analysis, we all have an opportunity to acquire the kind of character traits that you talk about that are integrated into what West Point stands for. And the book is called Character Carved in Stone. And it's a read worthy of you, worthy of your kids. It's a great gift, you know, for Easter, or even the holidays, to be able to give to your kids and those that you love. But thank you. You always bring something thought-worthy and remarkable when you come. We appreciate
Terry, I'm always glad to be here. I have great respect for you. I always like being around Pat Robertson, who just doesn't yield to life, to age. I mean, he looks better than ever. And people are going to enjoy this book. I think there's some real meat there for them to chew on.
Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, Terry.
Awesome to have you here.